doing that, and I keep saying, lower your expectations. He starts me off really high. So I think this is probably the biggest crowd we've ever had for this show. Yeah. And really and I'm going to get us started off quickly. This feature artist is very special to me and to those of you who have been coming to this show for a while. I can't see any of you right now because the light is in my face, but I know some of you are here. And so I just want to read one part of his bio. He believes our stories are at risk of erasure and must be written, published, shared, and propagated. Who feels that right now? Like, all of our words are a bit in danger. And so this quote from him, story and poetry is the gravity that attracts hearts and minds. Stories inspire, teach, guide, say what must be said. Now more than ever, we must fight to breathe life into the stories we live. And he hadn't even started the poetry yet. Anthony Collins is our
Family, how y'all doing tonight? Doing good? Hold on, wait, that was kind of flat. That's right. How y'all doing tonight now? All right, now we talking. All right, so like Lauren said, story's a lot, and especially right now because, you know, we got some people trying to erase our story, right? So story, like what is story? What does a story do? Like what does a story do? So for one thing I can tell you, you know, story tells the truth, right? It gives perspective, right? And it also enlightens people, right? And a lot of times we might think that your story or an individual story is just their story. That's not the case, right? All of our stories are intertwined. Whether you run into a person at a 7-Eleven, you know, you bump into them and say, excuse me, now you guys' stories are connected. If you say hello to somebody, your story is connected. If that's your brother, if it's your sister, if it's your mother, your stories are connected. Now, there's different levels at which a person's story might be impacted by another person, but one way or another, our stories want to impact each other. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share some of my story with the intention of just kind of letting you know, get to know me a little bit, you know, just get to know me. Then also I hope to give you something that you can take with you. Provide a perspective that you may not have had before. Shift your focus on something that you weren't focusing on before. Leave you with something special, something you can take with you, something positive. All right? Yeah. All right? All right, so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump into the poetry. All right? So this first piece is actually about how I began to write poetry. I'll tell you, it was kind of funny. I was like 5 years old, and my teacher, Miss Kohler, she was like, you know what? I'm going to have these kids write a poetry book. I was 5 years old in kindergarten. And she had us write this poetry book, and I didn't mention it, but it's actually my birthday tonight, by the way. I didn't say that. And so, like I said, that was when I was 5. I'm turning 39 tonight. Yeah. Okay, you go ahead. It stuck with me. Impact. Everybody has impact. Impact is real. It exists. Use it for good. My teacher, she used it for good, and it stuck with me. You never know how you can impact somebody. Like I was saying, our stories are intertwined. You might say hello to that person. You never know what state of mind they're in at that moment. Your impact matters. So this first piece is called my first poetry book. Kindergarten. Miss Kohler's class. Homework. Assignment, write a poetry book. Haikus, diamantes, sequins, free verses too. Poetry forms I didn't know, poetry, fingers kneading me, flour and dough. I didn't know the assignment was me, dough kneaded into a loaf, baked in the oven. I didn't know poetry was also yeast. It's the reason my crust rose like clouds, floating like hopelessness into brighter days. I didn't know the assignment was to be bread rested on a stovetop, cooled, then broken and shared like a native tongue. I didn't know. I was in kindergarten, writing poetry in forms I didn't know, poetry forms, forming me like fingers to a lump of dough, kneaded into a loaf on the stovetop. I didn't know. Writing a poetry book was the assignment, homework, kindergarten, Miss Cola's class. I was just writing poetry in forms I didn't know. I didn't know the assignment was for poetry to form me. So yeah, impact matters. Impact really matters. This next piece is so I was born like pretty much a healthy young child, young baby, but I had narrow ear canal, so I was really susceptible to ear infections and things like that. So I ended up getting a lot of ear infections, and at some point in my life, really around the time I started to talk, I went like completely deaf. And it really impacted my speech development. So the reason why I'm telling you that is because my grandmother, God rest her soul, and thank you for her, thank you so much for her, she decided that, we need to do an experiment. We need to test to see if it's hearing. So she just decided that, we're gonna bang a bunch of pots and pans and make a bunch of noise. And it was crazy, right? Like that's something my grandma would do, something really wacky. And she did that. And my family found out that I couldn't hear. Now, I say that to say that she was my advocate. She spoke for me, right? So sometimes within our lives, we might believe that speaking for somebody else or being like a bullhorn or somebody else's voice doesn't matter, but it does. Like Timoquai is doing for Black History Month. That's a huge thing. Like everything you do, when you speak for somebody, it matters. So this piece is really about advocacy. It's in dedication to my grandmother and other people in my life that have like really stood up for me and done so many different things to get me to this point in my life. And for everybody else too. But it's really about advocacy. So it's called Granny Bangs, Pots and Pans. Granny bangs pots and pans, I don't flinch. My afro is a bronze sunrise, my pamper soggy. Daddy sips Pepsi sitting on a bar stool. Mommy blows kisses. Like baby blue balloons, they float over a rug like a meadow of tulips. Granny bangs pots and pans, I don't flinch. Stumble as I smack lips. Mommy mouths moss, whose wings dust light slivers, shimmering silence. I chase moss, her voice. I chase moss, her voice, while Granny bangs pots and pans, I don't flinch. I cradle Mommy's cheek, like Braille. My eyes stroke her lips, Mommy speaks, periwinkle plumes of moss that dance. Granny bangs pots and pans, I don't flinch. Mommy caresses my head, her skin silky as my blanket. I snuggle in my crib, stuffed monkey snug under my armpit. Granny bangs pots and pans, I don't flinch. I'm in a cocoon, in a quiet place. The place, quiet babies, stay quiet and perfect. Granny bangs pots and pans as if hammering my translucent cocoon. In the cocoon, a finger rigid and glued presses a piano key. It rings. Granny bangs, hammering my cocoon, shattering quiet cocooning me. The baby not flinching, like babies flinch when grannies bang pots and pans. Banging pots and pans, they see me. Baby not flinching as Granny bangs pots and pans. All right, so let me take a little switch of water. You guys still with me?
Yeah.
So this next piece, I'm gonna actually just tell you the title and I'll explain what the title means and I'll kind of explain what the poem is about. It's called the Free Lunch Club. So if you don't know, free lunch is what you get if you're unable to afford lunch in public schools, right? Within my public school, you go to the cafeteria, you get your lunch or whatever, and there was these people, the cafeteria ladies and the janitors who were always in there. Sometimes you have a security guard or whatnot. From my experience, the people, the security guard, the lunch ladies, the janitors, they were like an additional support system, right? I would always see them like encouraging kids. They encouraged me, talking to me, high-fiving me, saying good job on whatever I did. And they did so much that was outside of the job, And they created this environment where kids felt safe. They felt good, It's kind of like Timaquah, kind of like Timaquah. When you felt welcome, you can be yourself and stuff like that. So that's why it's called Free Lunch Club. It was the Free Lunch Club. That was the club. That it wasn't just kids that wanted free lunch, but it was just anybody that needed something, that needed a space, right? At Richmond Middle, lunch ladies wear more than hairnets, serve more than food to crowds of rowdy middle schoolers. This isn't some 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, off on weekends and holidays. I do these daily duties because other options amount to more lit in my pockets type of gig. Hairnets are crowns. Crowning queens that cater wars through pizza too stale to eat for some, last sure meal till summer school for others. At this cafeteria, queens serve raisin cookies, softening stares, stoniest calluses on tired hands, a child's hands, callous from hauling bricks to mortar a home. In this cafeteria, queens go as trays like voids in desolate refrigerators. Tater tots and pizza splattered on this cafeteria floor is a child walking to a home shattered like its backbone, hollowed as space upon sofa has left, thirsting like a cup in a rusting sink under a faucet that hasn't run water for weeks. In this cafeteria, queens are chocolate sweetening milk in cartons, are the cartons closely cradling each drop of milk so each drop knows it's worthy of being loved, and not just in this cafeteria. In this cafeteria, queens scold like carrots with a pinch of brown sugar sprinkled on top, scold if a tray isn't in gray trash cans. In this cafeteria, the janitors are priests, rolling trash cans like mobile confessionals, collect messes, the muted confessions of barely lived lives, the bell rings. Priests pile weight of silence onto gray rolling carts lining walkways of this cafeteria. These messes do more than blow bags. They crack tongues like desert mud, hollow bones of hope like the Mojave sun, the bell rings. From this cafeteria, queens and priests push kids through double doors. Kids leave messes to rot in this cafeteria. Leave messes a child shouldn't carry in this place erected to be left. Leave this cafeteria and go chase their smiles. Yeah, safe spaces, man. Like it really matters, I can't tell you like how many people have created safe space for me, like they're here, and I'm sure they've done it for you guys out there too. So we need more safe spaces. Don't be afraid to get out there and create your own safe spaces. All right. You still with me?
All right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're gonna get into something that's a little more heavy. I'll tell you, like the first time I ever read this out loud, it brought tears to my eyes. I'll tell you that. But I think I might be able to get through it without a tear. If I don't, hey, y'all gonna get to see me cry. That's all good. Yep. So this is about my uncle. He committed suicide. He took his own life some years back. It was real hard for me, my family, and like especially my aunt and his daughter. But basically, what this poem is about is me grieving. It's me grieving, going through the process of grieving. And through my grieving process, I came to accept his decision. And in some way, even though I didn't agree with it, regardless, I understood where he was coming from. And I think that, to me, more than anything, like just going through this whole process of writing this was more cathartic. And I don't know if you guys have ever lost anybody. Sometimes just expressing that, putting on paper, saying some things that might bring tears to your eyes out loud, it can do a world. It can really help you. And then also too, if you see somebody going through certain things and you might like not understand where they're coming from, hopefully this piece kind of helps you understand where they might be coming from. Support them. Don't ridicule. So that's really what this is about. So it's called Sanctum. I stacked bricks around the parking space, staying deeper than the roots of the shepherd's tree. I'll tell you a secret. This parking space isn't a parking space. Bricks aren't bricks. Blisters on palms and fingers bubble up from the bone. This parking space is a sanctum. Bricks are moments I sift asphalt crumbling into a sinkhole. The gaping gunshot wound he left us. I imagine he pulled the trigger with the finger he used to dial us. It's crazy to assume. Why didn't he call? Why didn't I call him? I stacked bricks and mortared them with silence. I'm good, I promise. In this sanctum, I wall myself. Sweating drops of me into bricks I mortar into sanctum walls. P sat in his car, folded the last of him, origami he tucked into his chest pocket, the goodbye letter he wrote. It's hard to believe the inking letters on paper is all he had left in him. I can't. He sent a text before he did it. I never asked what it read. If I never know, maybe P wasn't lying in that casket. I stacked bricks and mortared them. Blisters bleed hieroglyphs on bricks, ode to writings on wall I didn't cipher and still can't. On Thanksgiving night, we stood beside his new Harley, purple and glowing. The moon glowed like his smile, a pearl in the smoky wood grain of night. We planned a trip to Fayetteville, the military museum. P was an Air Force veteran, but he was also lying to us. Pinned places on a map he didn't have and wasn't buying. I stacked bricks, mortared them into walls around this space, this sanctum. I'm good, I promise. On days off, P did security at Walmart. This sanctum, this space, P parked in. My mom lives across 6 lanes, the highway. Thanksgiving dinner, our last meal was at her place. I stacked bricks and mortared them. I'm good, I promise. Salt was on his cheeks when they found him. Like salt left after lakes recede to deserts. He cried before he pulled the trigger. That's the hardest part. I stacked bricks and mortared them with silence. P wasn't lying about taking that trip to Fayetteville. A lake withered inside him. The desert sprawl as water receded. He didn't see over the sand dunes. Rippling rivers running on the other side. P walked the desert. Empty water jug and a gun. He saw a savior in dehydration or a bullet. I stack a brick, don't mortar it. I'm like him, stacking bricks and mortaring in silence. I collapse inside the sanctum's walls, thirsty. P hands me a jug of water. The sanctum walls are crumbling. So yeah, man, that's me grieving. Like, and that's hoping that somebody else knows it's okay to grieve too. Don't feel like you got to be a tough guy or a tough girl. You ain't always got to be strong. Just let it out, because like my uncle, I think he was always that rock for us, and I think that was part of the problem, that he always had to be a rock for somebody else. All right. So you guys still with me?
Yeah.
All right. It's my last one. And, you know, I got to talk about this whole Florida thing. You know, I can't let this go by without talking about it. Right now, we have a governor who's literally trying to erase history. Like I was saying, the story is important, right? History is a story, right? And you can't erase some parts of the story. I know there are some ugly parts of the American story, but within the ugly parts, there's going to be pain, there's going to be shame, there's going to be a lot of bad things. But within all that, you got lessons. And if you erase all that other stuff, you erase the lessons too. So now you can't learn from the mistakes you made in the past. So now you're going to repeat it. I'm not for that. It's not. Say it with me. You're not going for it. Nobody's story gets erased. Everybody's story matters. Everybody's. So this piece is called The Dry Erase Board. In grade school, I was told that erasing yesterday's notes left open space for tomorrow's lesson. That was a lie. Erasing the dry erase board was like stabbing a syringe. Interstate 95, needle point dripping poison into Miami's Overtown district, the South Harlem. Withered as asphalt paved through its heart. Asphalt bleached white like a blank dry erase board. Clean dry erase boards are mass graves. I would never see a teacher erasing a dry erase board the same again. In second grade, a boy I won't name was my friend till he called me the N-word. The ER was a thumbtack serrated with the teeth of slave-catching dogs stuck in the dry erase board's frame. A reminder of the states that nailed people, Yoruba, Ashanti, tribes people, to date slave ships that sank into blackness. Tribes turned black under white moonlight, glowing white as a clean dry erase board. I would never see a teacher erasing the dry erase board the same again. In ninth grade, at Santa's Enchanted Forest, with Zoe and Ebony, my close friends, we laughed, joked as we left, didn't notice police cars until one drove up on the sidewalk. Clutching holstered guns, they demanded ID. I handed student ID, I was 15. Asked what I was doing, just being 15. I faced them. 6 holstered but unfastened guns, 15 Grim Reapers loaded in each, one me armed with student ID. Pops pulled up, rescued me. Curfew was my crime, 9 p.m., Saturday. I was 15. That night was my American quinceañera, my rite of passage. The boy dissolved into American villain, like Emmett, like Ernie, like Eric, like Jose, like Trayvon, like Khalif, like stories not printed, an unmarked gray space in newspapers, blank as clean dry erase boards. I would never see a teacher erasing the dry erase board the same again. College, the apartment, knock at the door. I typed stories that rained over white space, letters on pages, keyboard clacking. It's the only noise I made for hours. Police didn't say hello, barged in saying noise complaint, clutching holstered guns again, asked what I was doing. They searched silence for the perfect place to find probable cause. Thank God they didn't plant it, a seed bearing rotten fruit that tastes bitter as the checkbox, yes for convicted felon, or a life boxed and buried in the coffin. They burned and lynched for less, mailed mutilated bodies, mutilated corpses on postcards, pocketed charred body parts as souvenirs. Many dead are blank spaces, like blank spaces lynched in King Gonzalez Day pieces. I would never see a teacher erasing the dry erase board the same again. They've been paving since Wall Street was made with cobblestone. asphalt paved, entombed, the first stocks traded, people paved over, erased, in the asphalt abysses of unmarked graves, their bones still pillars to pavement, the bedrock to this nation, but still erased, erased, kaleidoscopes, people, libraries, erased, neighborhoods, erased, tribes, erased, blood painting, the flag's red stripes, erased, erased, the poem I just read, erased, erased, erased. I would never see a teacher erasing the dry erase board the same again. I would never, never, ever let myself be erased again.